So following on from my last video where I shared some regrets I have about moving to and remaining in Scotland, I will insert a link to the video for anyone who has not seen the video. In this video, I'll be discussing why we have chosen to remain in Scotland despite all the regrets I mentioned. So we moved to Scotland because of my husband's job, and at the time we had the option of either moving to Scotland or remaining somewhere which was close to London. And I did mention in one of my previous videos that I became interested or became convinced about moving to Scotland when I realized that with less amount of money as we were paying for a small one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of London or Greater London, that we could get a three-bedroom house and he would still be able to have a really good access to his workplace. So at the time we were making the choice to move to Scotland, we chose the three-bedroom house because we knew we were looking to start a family, which was something we couldn't do at the one-bedroom apartment we were living in London because our then landlord made it very clear that we couldn't have children in the small apartment. It was a small one-bedroom apartment. He made it clear that we couldn't have children there. So if we wanted to have children, we would have had to move out of that apartment. And we knew how much it was going to cost to rent the sort of place we would love to raise a child in. And we also knew that should we have a child, we would most likely lose one income as a result of childcare, or work so much and then end up spending most of the income again on childcare. So it was important to us to focus on moving to a place where a little amount of money would go a long way and where we would basically have a relatively good life for less money. Not only were we going to be able to afford to rent a three-bedroom house, we were also looking into the future because we knew at some point we wanted to own our own home, and then again it made sense to go where we could get more space for smaller amount of money. And truly, if we were to purchase similar property as we have in Scotland down in England, it would cost at least double the amount. So we can say that it would have taken us a lot longer to get on the property ladder. That's if we ever made it on the property ladder. And it would have really taken us a lot longer should we have remained in London or anywhere around London. So the first reason why we moved to Scotland and have remained in Scotland is because of being able to afford a conducive space to raise a family. And secondly, moving to Scotland was a long-term plan for us. We made pros and cons list before we decided to move up to Scotland, and we were relatively aware of the fact that I might face some challenges on the work front since I wasn't moving up with a job, but to what extent the challenges would be, we didn't really know. So even though I gave up my jobs and then gave up the small business I was running down in England and moved up to Scotland not having a job, we figured that as long as one of us, in this case my husband, kept earning similar amount of money as he would in London up here in Scotland, that we would basically be okay because we're going to spend less money and we would be able to manage one income. And then we also thought that it was only going to be a matter of time before I found something doing and then start earning an income as well. And true to our thoughts and our plans, despite all the challenges which I have faced here and continue to face on the job front, I have been earning an income from about 6 months moving to Scotland, no matter how little the income is. At first, like I mentioned in the other video, I had to take a job which was a band lower, which meant that I earned a little bit lower than I was earning in London. But over time, I have managed to build back up my income, especially now being in a profession which pays basically the same or similar salary to professionals all over the country. So in essence, we have managed to increase our income whilst spending less. And even though there are little opportunities here to get permanent teaching jobs, I am quite okay doing the temporary teaching, also known as supply teaching, because as long as I can get work, the pay is exactly the same as those who have permanent jobs. And to be quite honest, I have been able to get work whenever I need to. Even though a permanent teaching job might be better because of better job security and potential career progression, I'm not really bothered about the unstable nature of the supply teaching. And then as for missing friends and family and the variety of foods which are available here, we would rather really live in Nigeria because that is where we have the majority of our family and friends. There is no place like home, and as far as I'm concerned, Nigeria is the only place I can get authentic, fresh Nigerian foods. So we'll endure in the meantime and travel as much as possible and then save as much as we can so that should the opportunity present itself in the future, we can actually be able to afford to move back home. And the truth is that living in Scotland provides us the best opportunity to be able to save towards a potential move, because if we were to live somewhere like in London or somewhere that is as expensive as London, it would be very difficult to be able to spend or pay all the expenses you pay for there and still afford to save some money, which would afford one to move back home. So in summary, we have decided to remain in Scotland because of the quality of life we're able to experience as a result of our income being able to go much further than it would if we lived in some other part of the UK. For example, the teaching program which I did here, I got to do that without paying a dime. Even though it left a lot to be desired, I am still grateful because at least I didn't have to pay for it. If I had studied for that down in England, I would have had to pay at least £9,000. And then secondly, childcare is another thing which is really good. Since our daughter turned 3, we've had to pay very little to nothing on nursery or what they call early years learning and childcare here, because of the generous amount of hours which is provided by the Scottish government. So all these, coupled with the fact that houses are a lot cheaper here and so far we've been spending significantly less on transportation, means that we can significantly save more and work towards a better or secure financial future. So while there might be things which are not going in the direction we would have wanted them to, we have chosen to remain here because we would rather live in a place that would afford us as a family the opportunity to travel and save for a better future.